All right. So let's work with definitions. Let's start kind of where we normally start, which is kind of on the focus of definitions here, right? And in thinking about, how does and how is, you know, it commonly understood about a hangover, definitionally speaking. And a hangover is defined as a severe headache or other after effects caused by drinking an excess of alcohol. Okay? A severe headache or other after effects caused by drinking or an excess of alcohol, right? And typically, and this is again something that I think is worthy of consideration of kind of like breaking down some of these kind of norms of behavior. But often when we think about hangovers, they usually occur the next day or the next morning, right? You wake up, you feel so hungover. And so that means that for some reason, socially speaking, culturally speaking, maybe kind of college drinking culture, right? A lot of college drinking culture occurs at night, right? And so the idea that we wake up the next day hungover, right? And there might be something worthy of exploring there. Like, why is it the case that our drinking patterns occur at night, fully knowing that they'll probably affect the start of the next day? That's why I think that people often get excited about day drinking, because it seems like maybe you could drink during the day and it'll mitigate symptoms of the after effects of alcohol the next day, because maybe you really will be able to sleep it off, etc., etc., etc. But that's not necessarily my interest here. But a severe headache or other after effects caused by drinking an excess of alcohol. And again, I'm sure that many in various capacities have experienced various severities of the after effects of alcohol consumption, right? A headache, most notably, which is associated with the lack of drinking water, right? Which is associated with the lack of being hydrated, because alcohol naturally dehydrates you. It is not nourishing as it relates to an actual substance of consumption. Additionally, it is the case often that more sugary drinks often will kind of lead to perhaps greater intensity of hangovers. Because again, if you think about kind of the nature of like the sugar, it brings you up while you're drinking it. But then, just like anything else, if you consume a lot of candy, you get a sugar rush. And so if you're consuming sugary alcoholic drinks, you get a sugar rush plus the effect of alcohol. And so the come down sometimes is that much more harsh, right? And again, hangovers are not just related or relegated to having a bad headache. Other symptoms can persist, right, as it relates to a hangover. And just for the sake of kind of, I don't know, for the sake of looking here, I'm pretty sure WebMD has hangover listed here. WebMD hangover. Hand washing was the first thing that came up. Go figure. All right. WebMD. When the alcohol wears off, you have a bunch of it floating around in your brain. It may be to blame for hangover symptoms like irritability, headache, nausea, and fatigue. Down another drink or two the next morning, and you'll hold off the glutamate all over again. Your hangover symptoms may improve. Probably shouldn't have read that. But that is kind of the way that sometimes, again, you hear with this phrase of being hungover. Perhaps maybe the hair of the dog. I'm not advocating that. I'm not saying that's what you should do. But if you do go to WebMD, they have 6 ways to ease your symptoms, etc., etc., etc. And of course, there are all of these remedies, which again, I think asks a lot of really interesting questions about hangovers. Like the idea that there are all of these remedies to, get rid of your hangover, right? Some of them work, some of them don't work. Are they all just subjective, kind of for your own individual, etc., right? And some people, feel like they really have the answers. Like, do this, do that, don't do this, don't do that, right? I'm going to go eat a big thing of biscuits and gravy the next morning, and I'm going to have all that fat soak up those booze. But then after eating those biscuits and gravy, you're left feeling really lethargic, and your stomach feels goofy, and you want to just lay down. So maybe instead, you should go have a nice, vegetable-based smoothie, kind of get some nutrients back in your body, get everything kind of firing, getting everything, kind of healthy and stabilized, right? So again, it's going to vary from person to person. A lot of people have differing perspectives on hangover cures, and and so it's interesting here, right? Like, it's interesting here of just like what and how people consider and think of hangovers, both kind of in the social sense, in the cultural sense, maybe in the family sense, maybe in your social circles, right? And it's all a way of dealing with the after effects of choosing to consume alcohol. Okay? And so I'm going to build off that in the next video. This idea of it's all of our choice, going back to responsibility from last week. We all had the choice. I mean, I know that there's maybe some pushback there, but we all had the choice to consume alcohol or not. And so the next day, when we're not feeling great, when we are hungover, whose fault is it? Probably ours. But let's keep diving into that.